And we want to bring in our political insiders here on a Sunday morning. Republican Jennifer Hallowell, good morning. Democrat Dan Parker, Mary Beth Schneider, of course. And Mary Beth, let's start with you. Is this Todd Young challenge over?
It may be over legally. They may pursue it, they may not, but I don't think it's over politically. I think it caused some real damage within the Republican Party, and it also has some long-term consequences on enforcing that 500 vote signature on the petition limit going forward. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens down the road.
Dan, your reaction when you heard the commission's ruling yesterday?
Well, I wasn't surprised. Mary Beth has sat through plenty of these and knows that there's a lot of 2-2 ties. I thought it was, for a Republican Party that trumpets the rule of law and, throws out the words election fraud all the time, I thought this was a really bad decision. He didn't have enough. That was the reality. The Republican establishment looked the other way, and they wanted to put their guy on the ballot. I agree with Mary Beth. There was severe tension between the Stutzman and Young camps. How does that play out in the primary? Jennifer can answer that a lot better than I can, but it was a bad day for actually following the law. He didn't have enough. He didn't count. It was his own incompetence. There were 15 candidates that got the job done. He was the only one in front of the Election Commission because he didn't have enough.
Jennifer, your turn.
He had 501 signatures, and that was recorded in the statewide voter registration system, which is the
isn't official.
System that
It's
everyone
not
uses for
official when it comes to the
registration.
reports.
It's what the clerks use. It's what everyone uses for your voter file list and everything else. So I wasn't surprised by it either, because I do think that they met the criteria. It does galvanize support, I think, on both sides in the Republican camps. But I think that the biggest thing coming out of this is it's clear who the strongest candidate in this race is, because Democrats want to spend time trying to find a needle in a haystack and spend time and legal fees, precious resources, to try to take someone off the ballot. Todd Young beat Barron Hill in the congressional race 6 years ago by 10 points, and they are really concerned about him being their opponent.
But Stutzman sided with the Democrats on this. Were you surprised by how contentious it got between those two camps yesterday?
Well, I wasn't really surprised by it, no. And I do think it's interesting that the Stutzman campaign got into it. Senator Dan Coates expressed some concerns about their decision to do so a few days ago. And, I don't think that they added a new argument, but clearly, they're fierce competitors, and folks, having no opponent is your best opponent, right? So everyone was trying to not have to be on a ballot against Todd Young.
Absolutely, yeah. Todd Young comes out, looking like the guy that everybody sees as the front runner, and so that cements it. Whether it was ever true before now, it's true now. But it's also true. I was, following Twitter yesterday, there were an awful lot of people who were angry at Marlin Stutzman for pursuing this, but there were also people who were feeling that the rule of law was not being followed. And that was that Tea Party base that really supports Marlin Stutzman, and they felt quite agitated and fired up yesterday.
At the end of the day, you're not going to disenfranchise thousands of voters who've signed these petitions to get someone on the ballot.
You throw out that word disenfranchisement, okay? No voter was being disenfranchised.
Well,
your party does a great job. You guys do a great job of doing that at the polls.
You're comparing apples and shovels.
First of all, your SVRS, the Indiana Election Division, sends out a report every morning and says,
and the report
this
said
is not
501.
official.
The report says
this
501.
This is not official.
Okay? The report says 501. And
Jennifer,
so once you're certified, and he was certified, they're trying to kick him off a ballot, right? He's already certified.
But the reality is she's part of the establishment
you reasonably
that needed
believe
to defend
that you're
Todd Young.
certified. If you say I'm certified, I reasonably believe that I am certified.
At the end of the day, he had 498.
Why would you think that you're not?
He had 498.
The Election Commission.
There's 501 on the list, and
No,
that is
there
the
wasn't.
same list. That is the same list that everyone used.
By the way,
to
every
determine
campaign,
whether someone
every
is a
campaign
registered
that's
voter.
ever done
It's
this.
the same list that the Democrat Party uses to build their
We're
profile.
all getting a glimpse of
Every campaign that gets
Friday's
these
commission
back
hearing.
does one thing before they turn them in. They count the number that were certified, not the number that was turned in, not the number that's on the report. You count. And Todd Young can't
They
count to
counted
500.
501. They had 501
They didn't count to
certified by
501
clerks.
because there was 498.
And they moved
This
forward.
represents the 2-2 tie pretty well. On the political side of things, Mary Beth, establishment candidates haven't been obviously doing well or had a lot of buzz going into this election season. Does this establish Todd Young as that establishment candidate, and does Stutzman get a little boost from it?
Maybe nationally the establishment candidates haven't done that well, but I think in Indiana the establishment candidates actually have been doing pretty well. There is on the Democrat side, Barron Hill is very establishment, and I think Todd Young, Marlon Stutzman, sitting members of Congress. Now Stutzman a little less so because he has a history of poking his finger in the eye of people like John Boehner on the floor of the House, and but they're still sitting congressmen. I don't think that the establishment in Indiana needs to worry. But you are going to, I think they both need to worry about this problem is going to continue going on. Back in the 90s, they changed the election commission to give it a 2-2 tie to almost ensure this kind of thing. Now there's precedent for saying, well, 498, 497, 501, we want choices on the ballot. And so we're going to go ahead and keep a major candidate. I don't know that they would have done the same. If this was some guy down ballot in some minor race falling short, I don't think it would have taken 4 hours. It would have taken 20 minutes to kick him off.
And if it's somebody that they thought they could beat, they wouldn't challenge him in the first place.
There does need to be changes to the system. This process is ripe for fraud because I went out and collected petitions for the candidate that I've been supporting this year, and I was asked for identification and to sign for it in one county.
This debate continues right now, both on air and on Twitter right now at Indy This Week. We're definitely not done with this debate by any stretch of the imagination. Still to come, here's strong words from Senator Dan Coates about the ballot challenge and the Republican battle to replace him. Plus, what would it take for him to vote on a Supreme Court nominee from President Obama? We'll ask him next. You're watching Indianapolis This Week on RTV6.